I went to high school at Lilydale High. I hated maths and science, even though I'm studying it now, but yeah, definitely PE I lived for. So my name is Clare Cherry and I'm 20 years old. I'm from Lilydale in Melbourne, Australia. I was probably a bit of an outcast because I wasn't into girly things. I was so used to, you know, playing outside and playing with the boys, and I didn't know how to wear makeup, I didn't own a dress. And considering the school uniform was dresses and skirts, I felt very almost out of place there, and I think a lot of the other kids picked up on that early and kind of picked on me for that, so I didn't have fond memories of high school. I'll never forget when a group of girls came up to me and they asked me, they said, "Claire, do you walk and run a lot?" And I said, yeah, I do it every day. And one of them turned to our other friend and said, "See, I don't want to run, I don't want to walk, I don't want to look like her." So that stuck with me. Yeah. Because I think what they were saying started to wear down on my own self-esteem. So I thought, if they're the cool kids and, you know, they say what goes, if they're saying it, then it must be true. I think if you told something enough, then you start to believe it. And I think they started to tell me it, so I started to tell myself that as well. I suppose it's a negative spiral. That's when I started thinking to myself that I wasn't good enough. I wanted to be like them, I wanted to be included, I wanted to be popular. I think that's a lot of kids' ideals at that age, is just to feel like they belong, and I really didn't feel like I belonged. Yeah, I think that's when I started to really have really low self-esteem and started to pick out things about myself that were wrong and tell myself that I was wrong, not right. Year 11 and 12 were the worst years of high school because I think everything had started to really impact. I wasn't sleeping, I was not eating properly because I was trying to look like the popular girls. I was not performing the best in my schoolwork, and that was because I wasn't sleeping and I wasn't eating properly and I was not able to concentrate. And around that time I'd been diagnosed with depression because I'd had my mum take me to see someone because she said what you're feeling isn't right, and I'd developed really negative coping mechanisms in self-harm, and that was something that really took flight in year 11 and 12. Kind of started to take over my life. It's almost like you've got a dark cloud over you constantly, and you feel like that you're banging on walls and no one can hear you. I remember sitting in class and I'd just stare at the clock, and I think the only thing I could focus on was literally the ticking of the clock, because you just sit there and words would go in one ear and go out the other, and I just would feel so restless. I'd need to escape out of something, and I'd often walk out of class and I'd just go sit by myself because I couldn't handle being in that situation felt like people were watching me, and even though they weren't, it just felt like I was so out of place and so, just so wrong. I would feel like my whole being was not supposed to be there. Yeah, just getting to the point where I needed something. I needed to feel something, and I didn't feel like I was feeling in my everyday life. I think I used to describe it as, you see the colour wheel and everything around you is colours, and when you spin that colour wheel, eventually all you see is white. It was like everything was just blank. Everything was spun so quickly that it was just nothing, and I felt like I needed to do something to feel. So when it came to self-harm, it was definitely all about, it was almost about punishing myself for feeling the way that I did, for being who I was, for, I felt like I was putting strain on my parents, you know, so it was almost like I was attacking myself. It's like you can't get to what you feel inside, so you hurt the outside. And it was about control. So I had control over this. I didn't have control over how I felt. I didn't have control over, you know, the dark cloud that was following me. So this I could do, this I could say when it was going to happen. I could look after it. I had control of it. So that was definitely a big thing for me. It was actually in 2011. It was August, and my nan had had a stroke, and my auntie had told us that she had terminal lung cancer, all in the same week. I was already pretty depressed, pretty hating on myself, and I was at the point where I said to myself, I can't deal with this anymore. I can't deal with being me. I'm just an added stress to my family. I'm a burden. I'm not worth being here when they've got so much else in their life. And yeah, that's when I cut myself the worst and didn't care about the consequences. It was, if I live or die, then I didn't care. So I went to an emergency ward, and yeah, I got stitches, and because I knew then that it was real, that being in a hospital room because you'd cut yourself open is something that I guess isn't really taken lightly. And having my mum sitting in the room with me was really, really hard, because she was trying really hard to be strong for me, but I could see how terrified she was. I could see how hysterical she was. And I knew then that it wasn't about me, it was about my family, that I needed to do something. I found a personal trainer, and I made new friends who definitely took me to where I've been now. I train 5 days a week, probably about 2.5 hours a session. 2 of those sessions I have to travel 1.5 hours to get to, just to see my Olympic coaches. And then the other 3 days I train by myself. There's something about pushing yourself to your limits, and instead of being so negative about my body, I realised that I can see how strong and how beautiful it can be. So that definitely gave me something to strive for. I love a challenge, and it's almost a challenge every day. So to get up and go to gym and see what you can do, and when I'm lifting, the challenge never stops, because the weights always get heavier. There's definitely my intrinsic rewards, being so happy within my life, and you know, having a bit of success with what I've done, and I've earned myself a few medals so far. So I got a gold at the Victorian Championships, and then I got a bronze at the National Championships, so there's definitely highlights. My short-term goals at the moment, I want to make the Australian team next year for weightlifting. I want to make some international competitions, would be definitely really #1 on the list. I'm a little bit out on my weights for Com Game trials, but there's definitely Olympic Games trials in the next few years. That is something that I'm going to be working towards. Being able to talk about what you've been through and not being afraid to get help is also definitely another big thing. Just doing what you want to do in life and not worrying about what people are going to say to you,
as in the criticism that people are going to give to you, because you're always going to get criticised. People are always not going to like what you do, but it's got to be something that you're okay with inside and the people that you love. And for me it was weightlifting, and I found that I'm good at it and I love doing it, and I can train 5 days a week, 2 hours a day for it. So that having that something to get me out of bed every day has definitely helped me a lot. And I think that it's not just something to do with sport, but anything in general that you've got to look forward to, whether it be in the garden or painting or walking. So it makes you happy, and definitely just sticking with it, and yeah, as I said before, not letting other people bring you down.